we're going to get a driverless car so Uber can make all the money? Right. Or another
Yeah.
example, this proliferation of corporations buying single family homes. Now we don't have avenues for starter homes. And you and I both know
Right.
home ownership is the most sustainable way of wealth and out of poverty. And
Right.
we can't compete with a Fortune 500 company buying houses. And so you have this
No.
artificial inflation of what house values are. Those are things
Right.
that we need our elected officials to really think about.
Greetings, my posse. Welcome to the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. I'm Rodney J. Littles.
I'm Rodney Butler. Hey, Rodney, I know that we got a great show. I know you got a great show lined up for us today. I
Yes,
can't
sir.
wait to, can't wait to, talk about your hot topic and your whole spotlight. But before that, we have a councilman out here who is out here in
Yes, sir.
the weather. But I'm going to let you go over that out there in
On the
field.
job.
Hey, boots on the ground, brother. Boots
That's
on the
it.
ground.
That's
Wait
what I'm
away,
talking
Rodney. But
about.
without further ado, because he's out there doing work, we're not going to hold him.
Yes, sir.
But he got this first segment, so we're going to get him in and get him out. So, Rodney, do your thing, brother.
All right. I want to welcome Joshua Butler IV of Ward D at Large in the city of East Point. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rodney Little and Rodney Butler. But I got to send a special shout out to my frat brother, Rodney Little, who's been a mentor to me, been in the political game for a long time, and we are committed to repair the damage that those people have done to our community.
Excellent. Excellent. Speaking of our community, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you grew up and what motivated you to get involved in community service.
I think that's a great question. If you hear me yelling a little bit, it's raining out here. And the unfortunate part about East Point, when it rains too hard, we have power outages. And so I've been out here trying to help some of my people with some lines that have dropped and things like that. So forgive me for the noise. But to be transparent and complete, I come from a political family. My grandmother helped Adam Clayton Powell become a congressman or helped him in his reelection. My grandmother also helped
Harlem, New
Jimmy
York.
Carter get it. Yeah. Well, I'm not from New York, but she was there. I have relatives there. They're from Baldwin County, Millersville, Georgia. And she helped Jimmy Carter get elected. But when I started and where Rodney and I met was at the state capitol. And literally, I consulted for a state representative, Dexter Sharper, and I helped him get elected the first black representative south of Albany, first black, first Democrat in that way. And so he asked me to come down to the Capitol and be his legislative manager as a reward for him winning this election. And I was literally down there opening doors, holding doors for state senators and state representatives, and just earned my stripes, literally earning my stripes. So it came time for some people. There was a seat open in East Point to become a city councilman. And people asked me to run. And Rodney, I said, look, I'm more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King. I'm not sure that you want me because I'm not squeaky clean. And just to tell you, in 2017, I went to God, the Most High, and I said, God, I'm just going to humble myself. I'm going to do what you want me to do. People asked me to run for office. I said no for the very reason I gave you. And a friend of mine said, a young lady said, how many times God got to tell you he wants you to run for city council? So in that Tuesday of November, before they counted the votes, I knew I had won. I won because I did what God told me to do, and I gave him my maximum effort. So that's how I got into politics.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, how has your experience been hanging out in East Point?
I tell you, I've been on council for about 7 years, and it feels like dog years. The politics, it just, you know, when I looked at it and to be transparent, talking men to men, I just knew this was going to be something great. All the people on council look like me. We just going to help solve the issues of our community. And it has been not that easy.
I got you. So now, what kind of where'd you go to school? What did you study, and what kind of profession have you been in?
So Rodney graduated from Mays High School with a 3.99, got accepted to MIT Naval,
Mm-hmm.
a minor in economics. And the best thing about that experience was I learned knowledge of self. That's when I started to learn much more about what it means to be a black man in America than anything else. So that's the best thing about my experience growing up and graduating from Morehouse College.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So now, based upon the current climate in the state and nationally, what are some of the biggest challenges that the council faces and the mayor faces in the city of East Point and in this region?
Well, Rodney, we live in a transition period, and it reminds me of after Reconstruction, you had the birth of Jim Crow. And so we had Obama, and now we have people fighting against that progressive, all inclusive narrative that we thought we had overcome. And how does that translate into cities? We're not getting the type of support that we usually got from the state and we get from the federal level. So, in order to have effective municipal leadership, you have to have people that are creative, who know their history, and have a heart of service for the people. Because we have to be able to create different forms of income, and we have to be selective because we want our communities to grow, but we want our elderly to thrive in those communities. We want our young people to thrive. We want them to be able to afford housing and not just kick everybody out and gentrify those things. So that's what's happening in East Point. We have to be very creative in how we lead and make sure that people that's been there for 30 or 40 years that look like us reap the benefits of that investment. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. It does. It does. So, based upon your experience on the council and being involved in state affairs, how do you see the economic climate? And what are some of the biggest challenges a city has in terms of their economic development?
Well, Rodney, look, economic development in a black community is not begging white folks to put a red lobster in your neighborhood. I think that's what a lot of people, especially African American municipalities, don't get. What we're there to do is to empower development, entrepreneurship for our own community. And I didn't come up with that formula. I learned that, and it didn't even start with Maynard Jackson. It started with his granddad, John Wesley Dobbs, in the turn of the century when he was recruiting black porters to come to Atlanta. He built up such a political power base. By 1943, Mayor Hartsville annexed Buckhead into Atlanta to dilute the black vote. But they were so successful that John Wesley Dobbs' grandson, Maynard Holbrook Jackson, became the first black mayor of a major city since Reconstruction. And then the plan is 25%. If African Americans aren't getting 25% of the contracts, then we're not living up to the reason why we're supposed to be elected official. And that was a negotiated number with the majority community and the minority community. And when we operate in that ecosystem, now we have a city like Atlanta and we shape the culture all over the country and all over the world. So that's the plan. And more black elected officials have to understand what the plan is. We have to share that with our brothers and sisters with melanin and some with a little less melanin to let them know this is a benefit to all of us.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So, what would you want those listeners that are on to know about Josh Butler?
Know that integrity is very important to me. I'm a really straight shooter. Dog ain't gonna hunt. And I'll give you an example. Somebody wanted to put a gas station on a corner in one of our communities. I know that dog ain't gonna hunt. So you need to figure out something else to do on that corner, right? And that's what kind of politician
Mm-hmm.
I am. Honest, straight shooter, and have the will for the people. I'll say one more thing too. In leadership, there are a couple of rules. The first thing is I have two bosses. I have the staff
Mm-hmm.
that work at the city, and then I have the community. So I have to be responsible to both of those. And in leadership, you have to understand there are times when you have to lead the community in a way that they don't understand because you have more information. Then there are times you need to be able to listen to the community and do what they ask you to do. A leader knows when to differentiate and when to do one of those things. And sometimes it's hard.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, looking into the crystal ball for the future, how do you see your city and our region that your city is in going forward?
Rodney, I think as we discussed, we live in some difficult times. I'm afraid that our young people don't realize how precarious our position is, right? So we have the potential to do great and to be great. We're in one of the longest standing economies where we keep having growth. But with the policies that are coming from Washington, D.C. now, the cut in all of these benefits, that's going to have a dramatic effect on our community if those cuts are maintained. When we're talking about the social altruism from the federal government, if those things are cut, food stamp benefits, housing benefits, in our city, we get money to help with infrastructure, water infrastructure, because we have $300 million worth of water infrastructure that we need to do. We provide water to several municipalities, and we have to depend on the federal government to help subsidize that. You can't balance that on property taxes or one penny sales tax. You have to have the federal government to do that. If they continue in this manner, we won't have that. In addition, some of the things that we take for granted, Department of Education, you know, we have kids that go to school on Pell Grants. If they can't go to school, what happens to our electorate? But in addition, some things that people aren't even thinking about, how is technology going to affect the labor pool? I'll give you an example. Why do we need a driverless car? When a brother out there or a sister needs a job, and that's a job. So why do some things we don't need? And so, because I call it hyper capitalism, we're going to get a driverless car so Uber can make all the money, right?
Hmm.
Or another
Yeah.
example, this proliferation of corporations buying single family homes. Now we don't have
Mm,
avenues for starter homes. And you and I both know
right.
home ownership is the most sustainable way of wealth and out of poverty. And if we don't have,
Right.
we can't compete with a Fortune 500 company buying houses. And so you have this
No.
artificial inflation of what house values are. Those are things
Right.
that we need our elected officials to really think about. But more, I'll leave with this. We like to hold our local and our county officials accountable. Nobody talks to the state. Our governor gets a free pass for graffiti on the road, for crime, for homelessness. These are things that were regulated by the state, in the 50s and 60s and things like that. But they want the property taxes to take care of everything. And I have a theory for that too. I'm not sure if we're ready to talk about it on radio.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. Well, I appreciate you. Any parting words?
Well, first of all, thank you, brothers, both. And Rodney, I love you. You know I do, my brother. The work that you have done for the Democratic Party, the work you've done on the state level, your advocacy for what's right for Black people, the reparations movement, you have really done a yeoman's job. And a lot of our heroes in our community, we don't know because you're just quiet, you keep doing the work, you're consistent with it. You are definitely a hero. And we need to make sure that you and others are recognized for what you do for this community. So I can't leave without giving you your platitudes because, brother, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And full disclosure, we are both Omega men. Oh, Brother
Uh,
Butler, what you got for me?
Hey, look, Rodney, like I said, hey, look, great questions, great conversation, basically. And so I really have nothing to add so much on that front, more than I just want to make a couple of comments. And that is that I definitely appreciate, well, you know what, before I forget, because the councilman did say something about, the governor getting passes, right? I'll tell you another pass that the governor also giving you back your money and thinking he gave you a gift. So that's right around the corner. So I just want you to know that was already your money, okay? He just giving back to you. But anyway, he's excellent at that. Took a play right out of the Donald Trump playbook. But anyway, with that being said, I just want to thank Councilman Butler. Great name, by the way. I definitely want to thank Councilman Butler for coming on. He's out there. He was a little concerned about doing this basically this conversation, because we don't like to call them interviews. In the inclement weather out there in his car. But like I told him, we have interviewed people. We have had conversations with elected officials who are out there doing the work. And what better time? What better time to catch them? It's raining out there. It's raining terribly bad, today. And while we doing this, and he's out there, doing out there with boots on the ground, as we say. So we definitely appreciate it. We appreciate you coming on. Hope to have you back on. And I definitely, Rodney will attest to this, I definitely appreciate elected officials, man, who, like you said, it was music to my ears when you said, you know what? Basically, you saying, I've used this before too, I'm more of an activist than a politician. And so I appreciate those kind of quote unquote politicians or elected officials. I think that we need to stray away from some of these button up, always just pristine elected officials, and then they don't know how to deal with adversity when they get in there, because they've never been in trouble in anything in their lives. Like, oh my God, I thought I can get away with doing this. It's like, no, you can't. You see what I'm saying? You're too freaking buttoned up, And so I appreciate, the kind of elected officials that Councilman Butler is. So with that, Rodney, hey man, close out the segment. I appreciate it, and we hope to see Councilman Butler in the future on this platform.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate the fact that you took the time, even though you're out there on the job in this storm, looking out for your constituents. Go ahead, sir.
I got one more thing to add too. Juneteenth. I was happy to make that a holiday in the East Point, and we're getting Benjamin Crump. Ben Crump is coming to the city of East Point on June 14th, noon to 4 p.m. Free food, free entertainment, and we're giving away scholarships.
Councilman Butler, make sure if you got a flyer out there for that, make sure we get that so we can promote that.
Yes, I'm going to make sure you have
it. Send it to me. Yep, send it to the group the group email.
I certainly will.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, bye.
Good, bro.
Okay, all right.
Good time.
All right. Yes, Rodney. Great, man. Hey, like I said, the councilman is so much better sometimes to get them out there doing the work, in the community. And we actually caught him today with boots on the ground out there, in the weather. So once again, man, great guest.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
All right. So, hey, look.
Well,
we ready for the hot topic or?
Oh man, yes, but I don't know, man. There's so much stuff going on. I don't know what to say. I wanted to talk about the immigration and the Marines coming in, but I think that is a distraction.
I think so.
We got to keep our eye on the prize, and the prize is what's happening at the Department of Justice, the voting section of the Department of Justice. That's my hot topic.
Rodney, before you even start, I have been saying incessantly that, you know what? They're not going to stop until I don't know how much they're going to succeed, but they're not going to stop until they get to that 1964 Civil Rights Bill.
The Justice Department's unit tasked with enforcing federal voting laws is down from roughly 30 attorneys to about a half a dozen, as most of its career staff has departed in the face of escalating pressure tactics from the Trump administration. The mass exodus has whittled the voting section down to a fifth of its normal size, came after a relentless campaign by the department's political leaders to smear the work of longtime attorneys, dismissing controversial cases and reassigning career supervisors. So what they did is just came in and just started messing with everybody. Assistant Attorney General Harmy Dillon, the Trump appointee who oversees the Civil Rights Division, which houses the DOJ voting section, has joked about how the division has emptied out. More than 200 attorneys from the division, often called the crown jewel of the department, took a buyout offer by the administration. Just gutted the place, bro. During President Donald Trump's first term, DOJ officials forced voting section attorneys to abandon the more high-profile work that had often been opposed by conservatives. But the gutting of the section during Trump's second administration goes far beyond that, according to the former department attorneys and outside voter advocates. Quote, "We are seeing many more people at this point, after many, many years of experience, lead the division," said Thomas Saenz, president of the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Quote, "This is obviously more devastating because the work that's going to be done by them is going to be more clearly anti-voting rights and frankly done by less experienced people," end quote. Coming to an end. The Justice Department has already dropped challenges to Republican-drawn redistricting maps and GOP-backed election laws, as well as lawsuits that allege black voters in small communities have been discriminated against by long-standing local voting systems. The administration is abandoning pre-existing cases brought under the Voting Rights Act, as the 1965 Civil Rights Law is under legal attack, with new appeals court ruling foreclosing private enforcement of its main provisions in a large swath of the country. So we're in for it, my friend. We're in for it. We're going to be affected here in Georgia also. We're not exempt at all. In a few weeks that followed, the administration dropped a number of major cases, including the Alabama voter perjury lawsuit that had already produced a win for the DOJ, a Texas redistricting challenge that after years of litigation was about to go to trial, and the lawsuit brought against a Georgia overhaul of its election laws, an overhaul that was propelled by Trump's lies about the 2020 count that included new ID requirements and a ban on mobile voting. Before Georgia cases were formally dropped, Bondi said in the news release that claims in the lawsuit were, quote, "fabricated and false," end quote. Bill & Two slammed the Georgia lawsuit as a, quote, "face-free hypothesis." My brother, this is voter suppression 5.0. This is way beyond anything that we imagined that will occur in our lifetime. And as far as I understand it, if Congress passes the money to appropriate to pay for the staff and the law is passed to be enforced, I thought the executive branch responsibility was to oversee that. Not the destruction of it, but the implementation of it. So this is just a complete insurrection on the executive branch, period. And I'm fearful because it's been so hard, as you know, to get young people to even talk about voting. It's very difficult. So if they're already discouraged, and between the redistricting and gerrymandering maps and the purging of voter rolls, this is an all-out assault on a democracy as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know who all feels that this is going to benefit, but this is going to hurt everyone, not just people that look like you and I, my friend. This is going to affect a lot more people. It doesn't say in here what race you are, what ethnicity you are, that this applies. This applies across the board. Exactly. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander is the way I see it. But I'm very concerned that the future is going to be very dim. My granddaughter just registered to vote, 17 and a half. And I was excited. I'm trying to keep my chin up, trying to keep smiling. But I'm concerned about the kind of climate she's going to run into when she goes to vote. It's scary, Rodney. I don't know what else to say.
Well, Rodney, it is, like I said, I don't want to continue to always talk about, what we tried to tell people, what we tried to warn people, but I have to sneak it in there.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Project 2025, we talked about it. Like I said, it is, what is it? 923 page or whatever it is, not over 900 pages, something that's been, around for a very long time. It may have started out the size of a pamphlet, but now it is the size of a great novel with 900 and something pages. And so people need to understand that even with all those pages, they're not even halfway through the things that they want to institute, from Project 2025 in order to set us back at least to the 1940s,
Yes,
and of course beyond. And so what I want to say is this right here. Like I said, they've been they've been wanting to come after, the civil rights law, for a very long time. And right now, so I think what they're doing, Rodney, they are just overloading. If you overload everybody with a bunch of, and Donald Trump is excellent at this, overloading people with a bunch of stuff all at one time, what it does is it makes people feel that they are helpless, right?
Yes,
Because it's
exactly.
so many fronts to fight. There's so many
Yes,
fronts
sir.
to fight, and you feel like, you know what? I'm just gonna pray. I'm just gonna drop on my knees,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
I'm just gonna pray. And that is definitely something that some people, especially with our people, with melanated people, a lot of times when we get overwhelmed, that's what we do. But we all know the whole verse about prayer without deed. So I just want for people to understand that I talked a lot in our last special that we did, our co-host special series
Right.
now that we do right now. I talked about, the red herring, where,
Yes,
they
sir.
make you believe, or I'm sorry, where the red herring is okay. They make you look over here while they're doing this, right?
That's
And they make
right.
sure they put you down the wrong trail, on an empty trail. But this, Rodney, what they're doing is more of a wagging the dog kind of thing. The tail
Right.
wagging the dog. We've heard of that.
Right.
That's much smaller, because a tail, a dog was wag his tail, right? But you got something much smaller in the tail wagging the dog. So here we are, we're looking at, like you said, like you started out, Rodney, we're looking at the riots in LA. It's going to move to Chicago, it's going to move to New York, Atlanta, and every place else. While we're looking at that, they are picking apart our voting rights. You see what I'm saying? So the riots and him sending, active duty Marine and activating National Guard troops, without the permission or without the discussion of the governor, it is all it's all the tail wagging the dog. The dog is the 1964 this Voting Rights Act, civil rights. That is the dog. Yes, sir, Rodney.
Absolutely agree, my brother. And it's hard, like you say, to keep your focus on what's so important, because there's so much stuff. They call it flooding the zone. I mean, I ain't never heard that before, but I do understand it, and I see how it's working.
And I'm gonna tell you, it works. It works, and they know it works. This is the stuff that Hitler and Mussolini did.
Yep.
And Chavez and all these. But yeah, yes, sir.
And I go back to my young people, speaking to some young folks, and basically they're saying that their generation has very short attention span, that don't do a lot of reading. Therefore, they get their information bits and bytes.
I call it, right now, I call it surface knowledge. They got a lot of surface knowledge, but they can't go beneath anything, but they got it up here. But you start going to the weeds, you're lost. They're lost.
And the history from whence we came is not being passed down the way that it had been in the past. And therefore, they are misinformed, uninformed, and they're at risk because they don't really understand what's going on. And there's so much misinformation. It's a scary thought. But the prize is, in our democracy, was the fight for the right to vote. And if that's under attack the way that it is currently, and they're taking away any defense that we may have from the judicial system to protect those rights, I don't know where we're headed, bro. I don't know where we're headed. I'm just hopeful that calmer minds will prevail and folks will see on both sides of the aisle that this is a fundamental right as a citizen in this country that everyone should have access to, not less. And the bottom line is, I may be wrong, but what's the percentage of African Americans, people of color, black folks?
I guess according to the census, I guess we're 13-14%, but I think that we're maybe 17%, but yeah.
So where's the threat? I'm missing the threat. I don't know. I'm missing it.
Well,
but all I know is we're cutting our nose off to spite our face, and we are.
But Rodney, we've been a threat, I don't know if it's a real threat or it's a made up threat, but we've been a threat, since we were brought here. Okay,
it's a divide and conquer.
Absolutely, and brother, they made sure, this thing has been a thing now for 61 years, since 1960.
Right.
And that they've been on a path, okay, the powers to be been on a path to say we have to take those voting rights and those civil rights back. And if you raise an entire generation or two, in this case, probably two generations, to where, like you saying, Rodney, they only have a short, a very short attention span, right? Because, they were, raised to get things immediately. Or when they want it, they get it instantaneously.
Right.
They don't have to wait for anything. They're used to surface knowledge, right? They're used to AI. They're used to getting, the cliff notes, as we would call them back in the day when we were going to college, right? But they only know the cliff note version of everything. And so now you have an entire generation of that who's not interested in going into the weeds and finding out or doing the work, and I was always told, look, I always heard that the difference between a moment and a movement is that a movement, you got to sacrifice something, brother.
Yes,
you ain't got to
sir.
sacrifice nothing for a moment. And what these young people are used to, since you're talking about the young people, they are used to just having a bunch of moments, Rodney. Nobody is trying to do, a Montgomery bus boycott today, if you will. It's just not there. It's just not there. And I think it was by design that you raise an entire two generations of people who are not trying to hear that. And boom, guess what? Now your Project 2025 worked excellently. That stuff would not work if you got a bunch of John Lewis's and MLKs and Fannie Lou Hamers, and it can't work under those kind of conditions, but it can work.
Understood.
But that whole project can work very perfectly. Now, the last thing I want to say to Rodney before you close it out and move into our whole spotlight is that what a lot of people are about to find out. You're about to F around and find out. But a lot of people are about to find out that these civil rights and voting rights that Black people got their heads beat down in the streets for over years and years of Jim Crow and everything, a lot of people about to realize how many of them who may not look like us, but benefited from our blood, sweat, and tears. They are about to see the importance of Africans in America, bro. They about to see it.
Yep, I agree. Well, sticking on that whole point of the red herring and the sleight of hand, I got a Rolling Stone assessment of the 7 ugliest provisions in Trump's big, beautiful bill, as he would call it. Not everybody's calling it that. The number 1 ugliest provision. This is the budget bill. Blocking enforcement of contempt of court orders. The bill prohibits funding to enforce contempt of court orders against the executive branch, potentially allowing the administration to ignore judicial rulings, even in cases of constitutional violations. This could undermine the rule of law by making court orders, such as those related to deportations, unenforceable. It's in the bill. Now, because it relates to funding, cutting funding, it will stay in. However, there are some provisions that are hidden in there that only have to do with policy, not specifically the budget. And the parliamentarian in the U.S. Senate is reviewing those and should be making a ruling this week on what provisions in that bill have to come out because it violates parliamentary procedure in the budget process. So that's some backdrop on this. Number 2, abolition of taxes on gun silencers. The bill eliminates taxes on gun silencers, a move seen as a giveaway to gun enthusiasts and manufacturers. This provision is considered extraneous to the bill's primary tax focus and prioritizes niche interests over broader social needs. Again, it's on the cusp. This could be eliminated based upon the parliamentary review. Number 3, ending tax incentives for clean energy in cars. This is what Elon was upset about. The bill removes tax incentives for clean energy initiatives and electric vehicles, rolling back support for renewable energy adoption and sustainable transportation. This is viewed as a favoring fossil fuel industries at the expense of environmental progress. There you go. That's what the ruckus was all about.
Sir?
He wasn't about the money being cut for the poor folk, SNAP for the kids, Medicare, Medicaid. No. He wasn't worried about that. This is what he was upset about. Number 4, prohibiting state and local regulation of artificial intelligence for 10 years. Let me repeat that. Prohibit state and local regulation of artificial intelligence for 10 years. This bill bans state and local governments from regulating artificial intelligence for a decade. This clause, unrelated to the bill's tax focus, is seen as a preemptive shield for tech companies, potentially undermining consumer protections and local governance. Pay for play. You got to pay to the piper when you take it in, when you accept it. But this is another one that may be thrown out by the parliamentarian. Number 5, work requirements for federal benefits like SNAP. The bill introduces stricter requirements for federal benefit programs, such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, they call it SNAP, which supports low-income Americans. These requirements make it harder for vulnerable populations to access aid, reducing support for those in need. How you going to take food out of the mouths of kids? I mean, I thought these were Christian conservative folks. Am I missing something, Rodney? Golly. Number 6. Now that's clearly within the budgetary authority. They're talking about cutting a funded program. This is not one of those policy issues that the parliamentarians, this could go through.
Yes, sir.
Number 6, tax cuts disproportionately benefiting the wealthy. The bill extends and expands tax cuts that primarily benefit rich Americans, while increasing taxes for middle and lower income households. Analysis shows that the richest 5% will see tax cuts, while the middle 20% and poorest 20% face tax increases, exacerbating income inequality. It don't sound like it's religious bent to me. Number 7, and the last one, raising the SALT deduction cap with income limits. The bill adjusts the state and local tax, called SALT, deduction cap, raising it to $40,000 for married couples with incomes up to $500,000. This change primarily benefits higher income households in high tax states, offering little relief to lower and middle income families. My brother, this goes back to what you said a minute ago. We told you this was coming in Project 2025. We told you this was the target as it relates to the benefits or who would benefit from the budget and tax policies. It wasn't middle and low income folks. It was the wealthy, top 5%.
And Rodney, just about all the things out of all the 7, you pointed out one, but just about all the things with the 7 can actually make it through, okay, and pass. And those are the things that affect poor and middle class people. Those are the things that they can actually pass. The other stuff, like you say, it may not even make it past the parliamentary.
And so, Rodney, here's my concern. My concern is that the parliamentarian says, "Oh, these can't be in that bill." What's to stop them from bringing it back in a separate bill?
Exactly. That's what they do anyway.
Yeah. So the point is, they're showing you the hand. If you play cards, bro, you show me a hand, I know what you got. So we know what they got.
One thing Trump has really realized, and his administration realized, just do the crimes or do the things that that the people don't want. Do them in broad daylight.
Yes.
And when you do that, it makes it look like everything is on the up and up.
Right. But that's a good point. That's brilliant. I gotta admit.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at him.
They've studied the people. They've studied the people, Rodney. They have studied the people.
So tell me what your thought is on this artificial intelligence ban so that states and local governments cannot regulate it. Does it have to do with these data centers that back up AI? What does this got to do with?
The data centers, I think, is more of when you look at the Project 2025, when you look at even historically, although you say, well, AI wasn't around, in Hitler's era or in Mussolini's era, right? But it is the same thing as controlling. Now, when you're getting ready to take over, when you're getting ready to, change a government to socialism or whatever government you want, dictatorship, whatever want to come out of it, we know that you have got to control the narrative, right? You've got to control the narrative. In the past, that's been, print media and some, when we had the 3-4 networks or whatever, back in the day. So in this case, you can basically take, if you're not going to control and regulate AI, you can basically take the Black Man's Roundtable right here, get samples of, Rodney J. Little's and Rodney Butler's voice, okay? Put us on, do a whole podcast, and people think that's us. And there is absolutely nothing you can do about that. Now, if that's not controlling the narrative, then what is? Because see, right now, a lot of people is going, yes, will it affect? It'll definitely affect. We don't realize the effect that TV and big screen motion pictures and all this kind of stuff have, on the culture, have on us as a people. But there is no doubt that had you not been there is no doubt that had you not been sticking all of those Hollywood black male presidents in front of everybody years before Barack Obama was elected, I don't think he ever would have been elected, right? And so that's how important that is. But yes, when you got TV, movie star actors and radio personalities, podcast people, everything, and you just take the AI and just recreate, it's like, well, you can't do anything about it. And it's like, and they have the money to have a much bigger platform than what, we have or what others have on a radio and everything. And you swear you listening to, your local favorite radio person, even on private things like Sirius XM, satellite radio and everything. And so Rodney, it's not even, how people say a slippery slope. It's not even a slippery slope if that pass. It's just going to be a slope that that's just going to go straight down. It's not going to be slippery at all. It's just going to go straight down, and I think it's going to go straight to hell.
Yeah, and then the contempt of court orders. I don't understand how you could pass a law that would be in contradiction to the whole judicial system. How is that possible?
January 6th. But on the serious tip, Rodney, there was an insurrection, a whole entire insurrection televised. And so, look, I tell you how, Rodney, how is, the Supreme Court has given, this administration, immunity, has given them the right to do, whatever it is that they want to do. They are testing every single thing from, sending in National Guard, without, National Guard is supposed to, unless in wartime, and we're not in wartime that I know of, supposed to belong to the, under the direction of the governors. But I do understand the whole thing with, the oath, and all of that, and that the president can basically do, especially now, whatever it is that he wants to do. But everything, Los Angeles is a test ground and all this stuff. We know the end state. We know martial law. The president get to do almost whatever he wants to do. It's almost having like a state of emergency. He ain't really got to, all the red tape and stuff is gone, in the same way with martial law. So I answer your question, Rodney. That's how America has voted in that they wanted this man to go in and do whatever it is he wants to do. And he's doing just what 80,000 folks or whatever voted for him. 80 million, he is doing exactly 75 million or whatever. He's doing exactly what he feels that he was mandated to do. Now, we know it's not necessarily a mandate, but, so.
Yes, my brother. Well, I'm going to pray that those who get to vote on this, that they think about their children, their grandchildren, their nieces and nephews. If this bill were to affect them not being able to get SNAP or food or groceries, and they're in need, I'm just hoping that somehow that the greater good will prevail in this, because this is just evil as far as I'm concerned, the way it comes across to the public. And, to our audience, particularly black men that we talk to, it's time for you to have your voice heard. I didn't say get in the streets. There's other ways. The most important way is, in my mind, dig beneath the surface. Don't just look at all the stuff that's being thrown out there. Focus on what's not being shown in the media that's happening. Dig a little deeper. And now's the time that we have to think about nationhood, and that we are people, part of this society, and that we have to think about how do we survive and thrive in these times. And the most important way to do that, Brother Butler, will tell you, is we got to get our act together. We have to come together. We have to think about survival in a tough time. because it's here. It's not coming. It's here. So we have to look at each other as family, even if we're not related. We cannot be divided now. Cannot be divided. Some of us may have to step back. A lot of folks want to run for office. Think, oh, well, it's my turn. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe y'all need to get in the room with somebody that you trust and talk it out. But we have a serious challenge right now as a nation to maintain and protect what we have left of a democracy. And it knows no boundaries. This is going to affect everybody. And my concern is that we as black men understand what we need to do to be ready. We need to be ready.
Rodney, we need to go back, like you've suggested, either on this podcast or the one where we do with the co-host. But I know that you have suggested and basically said that we need to go back to our village concept, our village concepts. And we can't go at this alone.
No, sir.
Divide and conquer has been what's been the main play, if you will.
Yes, sir.
It's been the main play that they have used on our community, since the early 60s. And so this stuff is not anything that they just thought about 10 years ago. When you have a playbook, okay, that is, when you have a playbook that is over 60 years old, that playbook got some doggone good plays in it. And the only way we can defeat it is to come together, man. And like you suggested, to be, a village. And so there's so many things, like Rodney, like you saying, I'm not recommending that our folks get out there in the street. I'm not also going to get them. You do whatever you got to do. However, I think that, we have shed enough blood in these streets.
Yes, sir.
We have shed enough tears. We have been jailed enough. And the people who leave with their skin intact are the people who've been benefiting, from that blood, sweat, and tears that we've done, especially over these last, 60, 65 years. And so, of course, we can take it all the way back to 1619, but you understand what I'm saying about our rights and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
So that's what's got to happen, right? And for us black men, look, we can't keep the knowledge to ourselves. There's many ways as you learn whatever you learn on this platform or whatever platform you listen to. If you listen to podcasts, I think podcasts are some of the best things out there, okay? And I urge people to listen to not only the Black Man's Roundtable, but as many podcasts as you can listen to as possible of people who you believe in, just like we just had Councilman Butler on there, who comes straight out saying that, hey, I am not, some politician. I am straight up, about that business, is basically what he said. Those are the kind of people we need. We need to stop all this button up crap. It ain't getting us nowhere. That's just performance for the colonizers, basically. We are supposed to be, exactly. And as far as I'm concerned, the way I look at it is this right here. We need to be more unapologetic, not more apologetic. We need to tell it like it is every chance we get. We need to push back on whatever. We don't need to be listening to when you're playing a race card. Guess what? You created the race cards, and I will play it as much as I need to play it, because guess what? We're not even playing with it. We're not, when we're talking about race. No, you play with race. We're not playing with it. It is your made up construct that that we're pointing out that guess what? You are a doggone racist is what you are, and not only are you a racist, but you're also anti-black. We have to be comfortable saying that stuff, because right now, like you said, Rodney, it ain't coming. It's already here. And if you want to sit there and play soft games, if you want to go to work and code switch and do what you got to do, well, look, do that. But what I'm trying to tell you, that has not gotten us anywhere in 60, 65 years, to where right now our wealth, the wealth gap haven't changed hardly at all, in those 65 years. And when it did, Rodney, guess what happened? 2007, 2008, 2009, where blacks lost just about, like, economic crash, the housing market crash, like the councilman brought up, right, Rodney? What did he say? Most of our wealth is tied up in our homes, and they just no different. I'm sure, I'm not in your pocket, but I'm sure that is no different from these two Rodneys. Most of our wealth is in our homes or whatever. And they made sure, and then the wealth gap increased when they loaning all these black people mud loans and all this other kind of stuff, and basically setting them up. predatory lending, setting them up for failure. So
Yes,
as
sir.
black men, we have to come together. We
Yes, sir.
have to, the brotherhood and everything we talking about, we have to go back to saying, when we say what's up, what's going on, what's happening, we have to go back to what that was originally, where we really wanted to know what's up, what's happening, what's going on.
Right.
Now
What's
we just
going
say it in
on?
passing. But you know what?
Right.
100 years ago, if one black
Right.
man said to another, what's happening? This black man said, what's going on? You know, what's up? You got a whole nother story. You got to pull you into the alley. You see what I'm saying?
That's it.
We have to get back to that stuff, Rodney. So I know that was long, but I hope it answers your question, brother.
I appreciate it, man. When,
Yeah.
as we close, man, the only thing I can say is that if your vote wasn't valuable, why are they trying so hard to keep you from getting it or keeping it? Explain that to me. If it wasn't worth anything, why are they trying so hard to keep you from using it?
Rodney, I want people to know that your vote, your individual vote, is worth more than the $2,500 or the $5,000 that Donald Trump wagged in your face to keep you from either to get you to vote for him or to make you stay home and cross your fingers and hope for the best with Donald Trump. So your vote is at least worth $2,500 if you're a single household or whatever that or $5,000 if you're, a family household or whatever he gave you, and also whatever Brian Kemp about to send your way as well. Keep on.
It's our tax dollars.
It's our tax dollars.
Money.
It's our money. You're gonna let somebody send you your money,
and then you owe them?
Yes, and then they make you believe that they sent you something. This is all that's happening, people. So these are the kind of conversations that we got to have. Look, right. I love our culture. I love the Image Awards. I love the BET Awards. I love all those things, right? But let me tell you something. Right now, there are so many things that are so much more important going on.
Yes, sir.
And you have, brothers out here. Like I said, we don't get paid for what we do. You have people out here that's trying to do whatever they can do on whatever small, big, medium, large, super large platform, whatever they have to get the word out. But yet we'll listen to these things. We know the analytics of the Black Man's Roundtable. We won't share them. We'll listen to them. We'll hold on to the knowledge. So I guess so we can go in a barbershop and make everybody look stupid. But I tell you what, they much rather believe a panel of black men than to believe your individual self. So what you do, you turn them on to all of these different platforms. Not just the black, you turn them on to it and let them hear other collectively talking, because a collective talking is much more believable than an individual talking, So yeah, Rodney. But again, man, another outstanding, show you put together, another outstanding episode, of the Roundup, like always, man. And if you don't have anything, brother, we can close out this great episode and continue to do what we do, man.
Yes, we want to ask everyone to follow Black Man's Roundtable every Thursday of the month. You can catch the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney at 7 p.m. on the second Thursday of every month. And you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcasts. So until I see you again, we'll keep rounding them up.
Peace, Rodney.
Peace out.
Hey, family. Check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have a show idea or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please, like and follow us on social media.